Oh, damn. What a topic.
I'm going to have a visual right here that I'm going to pass around so you can look at it. So I'll leave the light on like dimly so you can see. There's two examples of currency from Zimbabwe. Yeah, put it down a little bit. Okay. I'm just going to pass it around. Okay. Just figure it out, Joe.
Wait, you said Ugandan?
No.
Oh, no, Zimbabwe. Oh, in Venezuela. 1,000.
Alright, so my topic is Robert Mugabe's birthday cakes, a history and analysis. And some of the slides may be a little messed up. I didn't do a dry run, so we'll see. I'm going to start with some background. Zimbabwe, the Pennsylvania of Southern Africa. I call it this because it's a keystone country. It's right in the center. And this is a modern map of Zimbabwe. You can see its geographic features. It has a lot of lakes and these beautiful waterfall systems. And the capital is Harare in the north. Who knew a map could make a person physically sick? This is a map of colonial Rhodesia. So Rhodesia is the name for the British colonies that made up several countries in southern Africa, in the Zambezi region, from the late 1890s, and Zimbabwe was the last to get independence in 1980. They were exploited for their mining resources and also lumber and just all kinds of like natural resources. It's a very rich area. The countries that that became independent out of this area was Malawi and Zambia and Zimbabwe, which is going to be the one that we're focusing on today. There's also Barotse land, which is an aspirin unrecognized region, which is part of Zambia, and that's the homeland of the Lozi people. The capital of Rhodesia was called Salisbury, which is like, just think about that, fucking white people naming this place is in Africa, Salisbury, is like, Jesus fucking Christ. Robert Mugabe, high expectations and tragic disappointment. Mugabe was born in 1924 under colonial rule. He rose to prominence as a communist guerrilla leader in the national struggle for liberation. And they didn't succeed. So there were two phases of the fight for independence in Zimbabwe. There was the first fight, which was against the British government. And then this fucking wacky ass, like, imperialist guy called Ian Smith decided that he was like a Zimbabwe born, but like part of the white ruling class. And he decided that he wanted to claim Rhodesia for himself after the British had already relinquished it. So he was not ready to let go. So Ian Smith was the quasi official leader of this independent colonial remnant of Rhodesia until 1980, which is when his party took over. And his party is called the ZANU. It's like the union. And you'll see later on when we get into the cake section that his party comes up a lot. So he was originally celebrated, and then over time he kind of just lost his mind and became really delusional and autocratic, and he was also really religious. So, and he hated gay people. There's all these like tirades that he would go on about homosexuality. So this is the heavy part, the information heavy part of the presentation. One of the things that he really fucked up was his land reform policy. So like, think about like how we always talk about land back, and conceptually this is a very positive thing. This was something that during the Pan-African movement was a huge topic. So that was instituted, but it was instituted in a really bad way because there was actually no coherent plan to transfer control into the hands of civilians and train people in agricultural areas. So they basically just kicked out all the white people who were historically in charge of all of the farming and the foodstuffs production, and there ended up being a massive famine after after he instituted this land reform rule, and that caused hyperinflation. There was a drought. Many things came together to just create this basically they became a failed state. So in the end of his reign wasn't until 2017. He lived to be 95, which is so fucking old. I'm trying to wait around for this asshole to die. So now we're gonna get to the sweet part. This is him enjoying a piece of birthday cake. I want to say up until his 81st birthday, it was really hard to find information on his birthday party. So I don't know if before this he was throwing lavish parties. I'm assuming that over time they got bigger and bigger, and the cakes got more elaborate going on into his 90s. But our real anchor point starts with this cake in 1981. You can see it's classical. It's in national colors, but there's not really a lot of symbolism in the cake. You can see that this is kind of the origin point for his love of birthday cakes. And there's a quote by him, it's one of his political rants. So during his birthday parties, he would like to give these really long speeches, and I'm sure people probably fell asleep. This was at a time when the country was entering into that massive famine and a political crisis. So 82 couldn't really find the cake for 82. We got 83. There's some descriptions about the cakes were only one element of these big celebrations that they would throw. So on his 83rd birthday, he was gifted a giant stuffed crocodile that was presented to him as a symbol of majestic authority. And the city was plastered with these political signs and just blanket statement that says Mugabe is right. The Day of the Crocodile. So his birthday was known as the Day of the Crocodile. The crocodile is a symbol of virility and power. And his name even, Goshongo, that was his nickname. You'll see it on some of the cakes I'll point it out. Means crocodile in Shona. And this is kind of like a title that you would give someone who called a crocodile, a male that was of a higher status. So there's an example of some little crocodile stuffed animals. That's not his. And then the skirt, this sexy pencil skirt with Robert Mugabe's face printed on it. My slides covering the text, but the cost for these parties was it started off on the lower end at $300,000 and went up to about $1 million on his 93rd birthday. His birthday was on the 21st of February. So 84, 85, you can see you still have these simple sheet cakes. There's not a lot of sculpting going on, but there is the motifs that we'll see later on with the cakes. You've got the flag on the bottom cake, and on the top you have the silhouette of the country with, I think it looks like, some major cities on there. So there's a map on there. And this is his family. They have the communist, pioneer style of handkerchiefs, because he was at one point a communist. 87, another sheet cake with the flag. There may have been more, but I really couldn't find any early on we had some spotty information. So 88, they have a cake competition. This is when his obsession with cakes really just kind of goes nuts. There are some cakes that I couldn't find pictures of, and irritatingly, the photographer really fucking sucked at his party. Many unfortunate victims of Mugabe's rule, but perhaps the one person that was his birthday photographer who managed to fuck up every shot. I couldn't even find the head of the crocodile. On the bottom we have a traditional village and outdoor setting, and then we have a building that says Sanopia, which is the later iteration of his political party. 89, there's another competition. Then we see these more elaborate kind of fondant cakes with portraits on them. Another one with the flags. 2014, he turns 90, it's a big fucking deal. the city's full of these billboards announcing his expensive party. Some of these cakes are really cool. So this one over here is just like a ton of little people, and then I think it's supposed to be Mugabe like lighting this eternal flame with the citizenry. And then you can even see under here, there's printed images of him and his face, like on these little like, I don't know, you know when you were a kid, they would like print out an image on the like sugar. Yeah. So 90. 90 is one of my favorite years. So this is 90. Yeah. So this is second page 90. So the pangolin. I think this is really hit a stride with this fucking pangolin cake. Like, it's beautiful. It took me so long to find a proper image of the front of a pangolin cake. And then over here, this one here. So this is an important one because this is actually it just looks like two circles, but it's actually supposed to be one of our national symbols, which is these prehistoric rocks that were balanced on each other.
It's actually on the dollar.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of them. There's not just like one monument. There's like hundreds, and they're really fucking old. And there's more pictures in this slideshow. So 91, you see more the portrait cake, and then up on the top right corner, this is one of the national symbols, this Shona bird. And the continent of Africa. Here's another one. This one's one of my favorites down here. The entire continent encircled with the flags of Zimbabwe, and it's sponsored by this bread brand that comes up a lot. I don't know. Maybe like there's this bread company too. Like their modern ones are called Global's Bread. No, they like on a bunch of these cakes. And then the portrait cake in the upper left. Here's some other agricultural themed cakes with the tractors, this one's ironic to me because of how he destroyed the nation's agricultural system. And then to the right, you see another example of the balancing rocks. And then the portrait cake with just generic animals. So, getting towards the end of the timeline. Uh-oh, there's a coup. The party's over for Mugabe. So yeah, 2017 he was ousted. He officially resigned, but like he was pushed out. He was, I think, 93 at the time. So he spent his 94th birthday behind the walls of his mansion, alone. The cake themes, and nation reflected. So here we go. We have a little bit of an overview on some of the symbolism of the motifs in the cakes. We have the Shona bird sculpture. So this is a soapstone sculpture that is featured. Is it on the money too? I don't know. Here's the money. Anyway, this is a famous sculpture. It's from the 11th century. And then we have the balancing rocks. You see the on the right hand side, it's on the currency and on the cake. So nature and animals are a heavy theme on his cakes. This is 10. I'm almost at the end. So expressing safe power through excess.
Keep going. We have to see the last cake.
Yeah. So his birthday was Zimbabwe's birthday, basically. He turned his own birthday and himself into a symbol of the country. His as I call it, the klepto-german autocracy, the greedy old thieves. Corruption and delusion, the lost cakes. This is the only cake that I couldn't bake properly.
That's an amazing cake.
It looks like, it's like a soccer field.
Yeah. feud in South Dakota.
So why was it difficult to find chronological order of Mugabe's birthday cakes? I will say my own theory personally is that the media around African issues is really shitty. Like, so a lot of these cakes were cited in the wrong years. They would reuse images from 10 years prior in a news article and putting them in order. A lot of shit was just missing. There is video of some of the celebrations, but it would take a long time to sift through. And in the end, you don't need to be an authoritarian communist. You can just be an anarchist instead.